This is Stephanie Hardy of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. As you may or may not know, the Supreme Court has decided to overturn Roe v. Wade, which was a law that was in place to protect the reproductive rights of women all over the United States. This was such a heavy blow to millions of women everywhere who were happy and glad that they lived in a country where they could control whatever it is that they wanted to do with their bodies, and it was left on an individual basis. But now it seems that it's no longer the case with so many states that have trigger laws that could very well be triggered by Roe versus Wade being overturned and them making abortion illegal in the various states thereof, including my own home state of Alabama. Though I love my home state, I have to be real and say that a lot of the politics that take place in the state of Alabama are very regressive and really stupid and don't necessarily fit the politics of what deserves to happen now in the present day in 2022. And I, as the host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, want to use my platform to speak out for these issues and to speak out and say that I am an advocate for women having rights over their own bodies. I'm an advocate of myself having advocacy over my own body. So for anyone who is in need of help, please reach out to anyone that you can, any healthcare professional, or look online, and there are tons of resources, I'm sure, that Planned Parenthood is offering in the states in which abortion is legal. And I am so sorry that many of you women are going through this and that we are going through this tough time. But I just hope that my podcast and even me with my platform can give you some type of respite in the midst of this really dark time, as I have over the past 2 years before. This isn't cool, and it's heartbreaking that this is happening, but we will not go down without a fight, and I will not go down without a fight. So with that in mind, I hope you still are fighting and you're never giving up on yourself as women who live in this country and call it home. And I know it's hard, but we will get through this. This is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and I hope you enjoy this episode. I will be talking to wrestling starlet Sahara Se7en, who I've been privileged enough and lucky enough to meet during my wrestling journey. And I will also be talking about my time in New York from this past weekend for Black WrestleFest, where we all gathered together and celebrated freedom for Juneteenth and celebrated our love and our contributions towards wrestling. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And know that you are strong, and you are fearless, and you are beautiful. And we deserve the right to choose. This is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. Who I admire, and someone who I'm happy to have met during my wrestling journey. And she is an amazing wrestler, in and of herself. Please welcome Sahara Se7en. How are you?
I'm good. Relaxing with me and my dog on a normal night, I guess.
Yeah, it's a regular Thursday. And it's a good night to chill. So I'm just really happy to have you on. I've wanted you on for a long time. And I'm so happy that, it finally did coalesce and come together, especially with this past weekend being Black WrestleFest in Brooklyn, New York. And it was my first time in Brooklyn and my first time in New York, period. And it felt like everybody and their mama was there. And when I saw you there, I was like, oh my God, it's her. And we saw each other and it was all good vibes. So it was great. So I'm glad that we're having this opportunity to talk and connect, even after meeting each other a year ago. So
I know you made me cry. You made me cry. Last time we saw each other, she like had touchy, not touchy subject, but it was like a subject that we just needed to get out and we needed to talk about. And she made me cry. And it was just a good cry. You know how you have a cry with your sister or your cousin, and it's a happy cry. Child, I met her. She made me cry, and I was like, "Who are you?" You made me cry, but it was a good cry. I was like, I like you. Why are you making me cry? But then when I saw you, like I said, when we saw each other at Black Wrestle Fest in Brooklyn, I gave you the biggest hug because I'm not a fake person. Once you like are in like engulfed in my world, and then I see you out, I don't act like I don't know you. I act like I know you, like I've known you for my whole life, and I'm always going to speak to you. Sorry, my dog is yawning in the background.
It's okay.
He just jumped on my lap really close to my phone. So if you hear me yawning, it's not me, it's him. But like I just, I treat you like, your family, because that's what Black Wrestle Fest is all about. All of us Black wrestlers and content creators, we all are, and fans are all centered around wrestling, but not just wrestling, being a Black person in wrestling. So to see you there and then see like all the things that you have gone on, like how much stuff and how much you've like grown in the time since NWA to now, I was like, go girl, go ahead with your ass. And then she came out with this outfit on, child, the last day.
God.
Honey, she was serving everybody. She said, cake, y'all want a slice? Let them eat it.
My God.
So,
no.
Look, don't get shy now. Y'all, she said, this is the Hardy. She said the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. She said, I'm the creator. Yes, I'm the boss. She came out in the boss outfit. With the heels. Yes, honey.
Oh my God.
She said, I'm Edna Mode, bitch. I'm a creator. I'm Edna Mode.
Yeah, I did. Because sometimes you just have to let people know. You have to let people know.
And that's, let them know.
Yeah, and that's really what that was. But I appreciate your kind words. It was, it was really fun. And honestly, we even met each other before NWA, because I was doing Belladonna and I was doing commentary for the Belladonna division.
That's right. I totally forgot about that too.
Yeah, and that's when we first met each other, and I got to commentate for you during our second event together, I think. And it was just the coolest thing. And I just remember I'm always in awe of all of the women that come through Belladonna, but just being in awe of you and everything you've done and everything. It's just been so cool watching you grow. But this interview is about you. So this is about you. So we'll probably talk more about Black Wrestle Fest a little bit later. But we're going to start with you. So I'm going to start by asking you, when did you fall in love with wrestling?
I fell in love with wrestling at a very early age. I used to get bullied a lot in like middle school and like high school because I was that girl that watched wrestling, and I had my planner was covered, and I'm about to tell on myself. My planner was covered in like John Cena stickers and like pictures I printed out, and Batista. Batista, if you watching this, Big Daddy Dave, I'm always gonna be a number one fan.
Yes.
But I had like John Cena, I had Batista, I had Eddie Guerrero on my on my planner, and I would like talk about wrestling nonstop. And there was only one other person in my middle school that I could really talk to wrestling about, and so we became known as the weirdos that watch wrestling. And then how I even got into wrestling was my uncle was a wrestling fan on both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side. They both were wrestling fans, and then like I used to sit and watch TV and like with my like older brothers and like my older cousins, and it was either watch wrestling or get your butt beat trying to change the channel and get beat up. So eventually you just learn to like suck it up. But like when I actually fell in love with it was, I will never forget, I was watching I think it was SmackDown, and at the time SmackDown was so cool. It was like when they had the little fist coming through the stage, it was just great.
Yes.
And there was a storyline, I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was a storyline, I think it was Rey Mysterio, to be honest. I think it was Rey Mysterio, and they were just beating his ass like every week. And he was the underdog, and I'm like, come on, y'all beating on this tiny man. No offense, Ray, I love Ray, but like they were beating on this tiny man. Dude's bigger than him, and he was consistently showing up the next week and the next week and the next week and the next week, and he was getting his ass beat. So eventually, he really beat these guys, and he went on to like do great things. And I'm like, that's how I felt. I felt like I was constantly the underdog, and I was always like getting bullied. I was constantly like getting picked on because I played soccer. I ended up moving and going to a different school than the school I was supposed to go to. So like I dealt with a lot of bullying growing up. So I related to that underdog storyline so much that like it literally became my story, my life story. Was I was always counted out and all, you know, all this, and I saw myself in a wrestling storyline for the very first time, and it really made it real to me. Like, you know, I was glued to the TV and I wanted to see what happened every week after that. I wanted to know what was happening to that person. I wanted to see how they overcame, because it gave me the strength to overcome. So that's how I fell in love with wrestling. But the first woman that I fell in love with wrestling for, everybody knows this, is Victoria, because she literally is my girl. And I'm a blessed person to say that, you know, I can call her anytime I need her. Like I got to wrestle her, and then we became great friends. And, you know, for her to cheer me on, you know, and anything that I'm doing in wrestling and anything that I'm doing outside of wrestling is a blessing. But I also have to give thanks to, you know, the two other women that really put me in the spotlight, you know, and that's Jazz and Jackie, because without them, there would be no me. And they really did come out there every week, not looking like everybody else, because I'm just put that out there. They would stick in the right places. And you know, WWE wasn't ready for that back then. So they really made it okay to be a strong, thick woman, and, you know, a woman of color, and going out there. So those three women really like shaped my whole like wrestling existence, and they made me fall in love. But the man that captured my heart will always be Razor Ramon Scott Hall. Rest in peace. Aww. But that man right there did me in, because not only was I watching it for the storylines, but I used to see Razor Ramon. I was like, yo, he's so cool. And he was the bad guy. I was like, yo, he's just so cool. Like, I want to be like him. I want to have that level of confidence where I'm just unfuckwittable. Excuse my language, but I'm just, okay. You just really you can't fuck with me, because I got that much confidence in myself. That's what being the bad guy was to me. Like, not just going around doing bad things, but you got so much confidence, even when you know you're wrong, you still feel like, you know, I'm that guy, or I'm that girl. So that's how I got it. That's my wrestling love story.
Yeah, it's a pretty good love story too. Like, it has so many like various chapters and various people involved with it, but it is a really good love story, right? And it's all valid. It's like you loved it, you know, from an early age, and you knew, and it basically made you, you know, apply certain tenets in life to help you overcome certain things like bullying and stuff like that. So I can totally understand that. And of course, like a lot of people, it was a family affair, which I, you know, can personally attest to myself, through my dad and my grandma, and my grandfather too. So I can totally get with that. And I understand how wrestling does, you know, empower you in some areas of your life where you feel like you may not be as strong, or you can't really move as forward in your own life. But then you see these other people and you feel like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So that is 100% valid. And I like that story a lot. And you did mention that you did participate in sports and you played soccer. Like, did that help? Like, were there any other sports you participated in? And did any of those sports like help you during, you know, your wrestling training?
I played basketball and I did volleyball, but soccer was my main thing. Soccer, I will tell you this one thing: you do not want to get kicked by me, because soccer really like taught me to like harness the power of my legs. And like when I say I kick hard, I kick hard. And like it really just helped me train myself to become an athlete and to focus, because when you play soccer for so many years, and I played soccer for a while, up until almost I graduated college, and it taught me that determination, and that you're not gonna just be good just because you've been doing this. You gotta like actually work at it, and like actually a sport actually isn't just like all fun and games. Like when you're a kid, yeah, it's all fun and games, but when you start getting older, you start, you know, changing and developing, you got to realize you got to put the work in to get the rewards that you want, and the efforts that you put in is what you're gonna get back. It's like you're gonna reap what you sow, is what my grandma always used to say. You're gonna reap what you sow. And athletes have to train really, 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 really hard in order to receive the benefits, like, you know, the sponsorships that people always go after, like Nike and all that good stuff. But in wrestling, you train so hard to get to the, you know, the big leagues, to get you the big contract you want, you know, whether it's to buy your mama a house or a car, whatever it is. Because I know so many of my friends that are doing this wrestling just not for themselves, but for other people, like their family. They train so hard day in and day out to achieve those goals and to be the best, so they can get to the championships, the big contracts, the big house, this, that, you know, whatever it may be. For me, it's just, you know, I'm training so hard and trying to reach the top so I can take care of my family the way my grandma took care of me and my family. I don't want to be the person to take on that burden. So I have to train hard enough to be good at something in order to obtain that. So I think soccer really like dug in deep for me, like, and ingrained it in my brain that in order to be good at something and in order to accomplish your dreams, you got to work for it. You got to reap what you sow.
Yeah, I 100% get that, because it's just like when you work hard for something, there's no one that can say, oh, you don't deserve it. No, you know you do. You know you deserve it because you worked hard for it. And there's a sense of focus that I believe athletes have that I admire a lot, because you have to be, you know, all in on this one thing or you're all out. And it's just like there's a level of focus that I feel like the average human may not necessarily have when it comes to certain things that athletes have, because their focus and their drive, it's like they have a drive that's driving them towards something. And when it comes to that, and even when it comes to wrestling, it's like you either have to want it and be 100% real about it, or you'll just be wasting your time and other people's time as well. So
Exactly.
So, you know, since you participated in all those sports, I guess maybe you just had triple focus in. Like triple, quadruple
Girl,
focus.
I have tunnel vision.
Yes. So I 100% get that, because yeah, I have to do that in my own life, even with the podcasting thing. It's like you have to have tunnel vision. You have to know what you want and where you want to go. Otherwise, you'll just get lost and you'll just forget why you do it and what you do it for and all of that. So I 100% get that. And also, I loved how you said that soccer made you like a really good kicker too, because soccer is not for the faint of heart. It looks like it can be a very tough sport. It really
Child
can.
playing 45 minutes, like, God. Okay, so you have like 45 minutes to play like one half if you're playing like an hour game or something like that, or like a 2-hour game. And then like the scoring doesn't get very high unless you're talking about like World Cup, right, or something like that. The highest I think I've ever seen is like more, maybe like 5-6 goals. Like that's like somebody just scoring on a team that's ass. But like that's a long time, and you're running up and down the field, like periodically stopping, starting, stop, starting. Like it's a tiring game, and then you have to put the pressure of somebody else's body on top of yours, on top of keeping your stamina up, top of running halfway up and down the field, back and forth at the change of direction, at like the change of the wind. Child, that sport ain't no joke. It ain't no joke. It ain't no joke. It ain't no joke.
It's not. And I admire all the soccer players that do that. Like I remember the first time I really paid any attention to soccer was when I went to Ghana for the first time. And I went in 2014 when it was World Cup time. And that was lit, because all you saw was Ghana colors everywhere, jerseys everywhere, soccer balls everywhere, you name it, it was there. And when I tell you that people were into it the way that we're into American football, like it was so serious. And I just remember just being hyper about it with them and just kind of getting caught up in everything. And that was the most I really ever paid it that much attention. Now, not so much now, but back then I can say that there was a point where I was into it simply because, that was, where I was at the time, and everyone in the country was really lit and watching Ghana and the Black Stars compete in the World Cup. And shout out to them, because I love that country so much.
Okay, so I was in Japan in 2018 when the World Cup was going on, and Japan did end up winning, but let's just talk about the fact that my country was in it. Egypt was in it. That was the first time we had 4 or 5 African teams actually in the World Cup in about a decade. So it is the first time Egypt had made it to the World Cup in 12 years. And when I say I was in Japan, I mean, yes, they had the blue samurai stuff everywhere, and I was happy because Japan is now a third home to me. And I was celebrating with my senpai, yeah, go Japan, when they weren't playing Egypt, because I used to tell her, I said, when Egypt's on, we're enemies. And she used to laugh because I was explaining to her, just like I'm telling you now, it was a big deal. 12 years since Egypt ever had gotten back into the World Cup, and it would just so happen to be the year that I was there, and I was just so I was all into it. I was decked out in everything Egypt. I had the glasses, the shorts, the jerseys, the little flags, and and I completely understand what you mean by being into it, but as a soccer fan, seeing the national team go ham and actually almost making it to win the cup, it was just great. Shout out, like you said, shout out to Ghana and shout out to Egypt for both of them actually making it to the World Cup, because I know Ghana was in that World Cup as well. We actually, like I said, we have 4 African teams that were in the World Cup in 2018. So shout out to our countries out there, and our countrymen and our brothers and sisters that was out there, turning up in the World Cup.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
World Cup is definitely a great way for people to get involved in soccer. If you don't watch it normally, the World Cup is a great way for you to understand the excitement of soccer. And if you can't go to the World Cup, you can definitely go to one of your local games and see how crazy people go over soccer. People go hard over soccer.
Yeah, we have a soccer team. In Birmingham, we actually have a soccer team. It's the Birmingham Legion. Now, I've never been to a soccer game, but I do know that they are fairly successful as far as I know. But I've never actually been to a game. Maybe I ought to, and to check it out.
You should. And when I moved to Orlando, I literally went to an Orlando City game, Orlando FC, and then they call it the Orlando Pride. And I went to a game, and it literally was fans everywhere, people cheering. They're so well loved around here. They got food named after them, places named after them around here. They are the SHIT, and they are hilarious. The players are so full of energy and so full of life. So I suggest anyone who's watching us right now, if you've never been to a soccer game, go to a soccer game and just don't even worry about not understanding who's what and who's scoring, whatever. Just go and enjoy yourself, and I guarantee you'll leave having the best time of your life. You'll feel like you want to go back because of the singing, the chant, and the booing, the yays, the cursing, the everything.
The clothes. Yeah, I like clothes. I like jerseys and stuff like that. So that's just the type of person I am. So yes. I'll do that. But back to you, though. So when exactly did you decide to pursue wrestling as a career? And when you made the decision, what were your circles or your family's initial reaction to it?
I made the decision to pursue wrestling in 2014. I'm about to tell my age, child. 2014, because I was graduating college at that time, and I saw my last week of actually living on campus, I saw a commercial for this wrestling school that was down the street, and it was if you want to be a wrestler, if you like what you see, call this number or come down and da 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 da. And I was this is a sign. This is a sign, because when I was in college, I really wasn't watching wrestling as much as I was because I was too busy being a college student and running around. I was barely home on Mondays and Fridays or whatever days it used to come on, Saturdays, whatever. I was barely home on those days because I was a college student. I was out partying and running around, hanging out with my friends, thinking I'm grown. So I turned on TV one night and I saw this, and I was yeah, I'm gonna I always love wrestling. I was well, I can do that, I'm an athlete, this shouldn't be hard. And I literally went down after I graduated the next week. Excuse me, sorry. I went down the next week because I'm losing my voice just a little bit. I went down the next week, and I literally was all right, I love wrestling. I've watched wrestling my whole life. I think I can do this because I'm an athlete, think I got a leg up, I'm going to try this. And literally, I walked in there, and the first school I went to, it was not that great, and they no longer are operating, and it wasn't a good experience, so they're not even worth a mention. But they told me, the head trainer told me I wouldn't even last or make it to the third day.
Oh no.
Yeah. So told me I wouldn't even make it to the third day, and literally I stayed there for about 6 months, and I was like, third day my ass. And then like I said, some things happened, like where that school got shut down, because it was good that it got shut down, because it was not a place for people to be trained, and especially women. It was a dangerous place for women. So, and then that's when I found my wrestling dad. Thank God for him. C.W. Anderson, who is the ECW original. I found him and Steve Carino in North Carolina, and they trained me and basically made me, with the help of Sean Denny, made me into what you see today. You know, of course I expanded myself, like, you know, since then, but they made me into the product that you see today. They got me and molded me like clay and pushed me forward. Now, as to my surroundings and my inner circle, the initial responses of my dad and my mom were not having it. They were not having it. My dad was my first soccer coach, so, you know, he thought I was going all the way to play soccer until the end of my days. And my mom, she went with it. She was not with it. My mom's a dentist, so she really thought, like, oh, you're going to be like a doctor or something, or you're going to stay on this nursing path or whatever. And I was like, no, I want to go wrestle. I was like, yeah, I'll do this in the meantime, but I want to wrestle. And they were just like, no. And then, like, my cousins and stuff were supportive. My grandma, Lord rest her soul, she helped raise me. She was always all for it. She said whatever I wanted to do, she was for it. She used to wear my shirt. She used to have my pictures. She still has my pictures in her house, even though she's no longer there. She has my pictures, like my first promo pictures, in her house. She has, she really was, like, the support system that I, like, never knew I needed. But when my parents kind of just, like, shut me out, and then, like, my friends all thought it was weird. And they were like, why would you want to do that to yourself? It kind of just like made me sad, and she was the only person that I could run to. So she was my support system for the longest time. In the early stages of my career, my grandma was my only support system. She was the only person I could talk to about it. Besides, you know, my cousins just thinking it's cool, she was the only person I could tell, like, oh, well, I didn't nail this today, and I feel really sucky about not being able to do this when everybody else can do this. Like, and I'm the only girl in the class right now, so of course everybody's looking at me like I'm weaker. And, you know, she really was the person, the driving force, you know, behind that. So she was my support system. As time went on, like, as long as I've been in this business, as time went on, my family kind of opened up to it, to now where those conversations of why would you choose to do this, and are you sure you're going to be able to do this for the rest of your life, have now faded. My mom and dad are super supportive. Now, you know, my sister, she supports, she shows her little college friends all this stuff all the time. Her little college friends follow me on social media, so I kind of find that weird too, but all that kind of has, like, subsided. You know, I think during family gatherings, I hear maybe one time, like, how long you plan on doing this, from at least one family member, and that's it, because the rest of them have just gotten used to the idea that this is what I do. And they can either support it or get lost, and I have no time for that. So it's either get with it or get lost. So that's pretty much how my support system is now.
That's good that your support system has, you know, fallen in line that way. And yeah, that at least they fall in line that way, because it's just, sometimes, you know, when you have it in your mind that you want to do something, it's like there's like, it's like I learned, I believe this week, but I keep hearing it throughout my life, is that you can only share so much with so few select people, because there are the people who are actually made to handle that, in terms of having an open mind and an open heart to what you have to do or what you have to say. But then there are the people who really are not equipped to handle anything like that. So honestly, I'm really glad that, they did, eventually grow to understand that this is a very serious thing, because I feel like initially they'll have that reaction if they feel like, oh, it's not really serious and you're not going to keep it going, and it's not going to be like something that you continuously do. But then when you spend a lot of time doing it, like over the course of months or even years now, in the case of you wrestling, it's like now it's just like, okay, now they see that it's consistent and that it is serious, and that they can't really say that or doubt that anymore. So I'm glad that, you did have a community that did support you, even when you felt a little bit alone or a little bit shaky in your main support system, but at least they did finally come around. And I'm glad for that.
Me too. It would suck if I didn't have my parents' support. And I think that's what they ultimately ended up seeing, that, it sucked for me having to be without my parental support, So they came around.
Yeah, they ultimately do. No matter how hard they make it, they ultimately do at the end of the day.
They have to.
Mm-hmm. So, how did you adapt to your training, and what was some of the best lessons that you learned during your training?
Adapting to my training, like I said, I came from a place that was not that great and really underestimated a women's wrestler, to going to train with C.W. Anderson and Sean Denny and Steve Carino. So they believed in their women, they really pushed us. So I adapted to just being one of the boys, being treated like one of the boys, and actually training like one of the boys. And the best thing I learned in wrestling as a female was, if you don't hit them, you mean it, they're gonna hit you like you mean it. They're gonna hit you like a guy. And so, I always carry that with me, because in my mind, I'm just as good as the boys, sometimes better. I hate to say it like that. Sometimes better. Mm-hmm. And I want to be treated with the respect. I want to be able to get the championships. I want to be able to get the contracts like they are. And it's and why should they give me these if I don't prove myself and conduct myself just like they do? Taking the extent of them hitting me, and take it a step further and saying, conduct yourself. Prime example, I'm gonna use Dave Bautista because I love him. Dave Bautista ain't about to sit down and get no little shrinking contract just because that's the basic thing that they're offering him. No, as a man who knows his talent and knows his worth, he's gonna go after what he thinks he's worth and what his talent is worth. So as a woman, I feel like I should be able to do that as well. Sit down and know my talent and know what it's worth, and sit there and negotiate and get get what I'm worth. Being one of the boys, but still being a woman and still being ladylike, but still being one of the boys and still holding myself to that esteem. If he can do it, I can do it. If John Cena and The Rock can be in movies and do all this stuff, then some of these female wrestlers can make that jump too. Just saying, go ahead and sit down and negotiate those contracts. That's why I took that away from my trainers, because they never told me I couldn't do something as a woman.
Right.
They said, you got to make sure you're, the best at what you do, not because you're a woman, because you want to get paid, just the fact that you're a woman. So that's one of the greatest things I've taken away from that, is just, always thinking that mindset as you show up and you show out and you show how you deserve and take that talent. Otherwise, they're gonna try to just hit you with the bare minimum. So you gotta, come hard, as they say. Come hard. Hit them hard. Hit them hard, because they're gonna hit you hard.
That is a really good philosophy to have.
That's one of the takeaways. Huh?
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. It's just that there was a little bit of delay on my part, But I was just agreeing with you though. Yes. Like,
I thought you said I'm sorry.
yeah, it's okay. But yeah, I was agreeing with you because it's just like in life, I feel like people try to make it seem like women shouldn't, ask for or sort of at least demand in a certain way, what we deserve when men do it all the time. And it's just like we work sometimes twice as hard, if not more, than certain people. And it's just like if we ask for what we deserve, then it's almost like you're sort of demonized or looked at. Oh, you're not being satisfied with what you're being given, or you're being ungrateful, or you're doing this. Like, no, like if I'm doing all of this stuff for you, and showing you what my talent has to offer, then you need to pay me what I'm worth and add tax to it. Like, I'm not about to sit here and apologize and dumb myself down just because you don't see my value. And if you cannot work with me, to get to a point to see my value, then I can go elsewhere and where they can actually see my value. So I actually appreciate that sentiment that they taught you. Like, you do have to hit back twice as hard because they will, try to lowball you, but you can't lowball yourself though. Don't play yourself.
Exactly. Don't play yourself, for the sake of others' comfortability.
Right. We were just, I was just talking about that in counseling. Viewers, that's just a view into my life. I'm actually in counseling because mental health matters.
Yes, child. Say that again.
It does.
Say it louder.
Mental health matters,
don't
guys.
Understand that. Mental health matters. If you think it's a joke, then you a joke.
Well, I would say if you think it's a joke, please don't think it's a joke, because you will wind up harming yourself if you do think it is. So please just take care of your mind and take care of yourself. So as your career began to blossom, what would you say were some of the some obstacles that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
So as my career began to blossom, I found it extremely difficult to get booked as a woman of color. I found it hard to get booked and not how can I say this without sounding really bad? Hard to get booked in roles that were not considered the ratchet black girl role, because when I came out, everybody wanted a ratchet black girl on their show to demonize and be the bad guy and all this stuff, and it was really hard not to get booked as that person. And I even talked to Suge about this, because I was like, Suge, I really don't want to be we had a long conversation to where I was in tears. So I don't want to be booked as this girl who is pushing the negative stereotype of black women, because that is not what we are. And I was like, I love wrestling, but I refuse to be continuously booked as the angry ratchet black girl, who has to come beat up the little white girl and the crowd hates her. It's okay to be hated as a heel, but why do I have to be in that stereotypical role of an angry ratchet black girl? So when I was coming up, it was really hard for you as a black woman not to get booked in that role. And I refused to work some of these promotions as those roles, because that's what they would literally try to book me. That would be in the booking email that they wanted. They just wanted me to be ratchet and angry and beat up on the white girl. And I'm like, is that all? So coming up, I really did have to deal with that a lot. I also had to deal with a lot of promoters trying to not pay you what you're worth because you're a woman. We talked about that. I came up in the time where a lot of times where promoters were literally trying to book girls and not pay them, and just trying to sexualize them and things like that. I was not for it. I never was for that type of treatment to women, where they were booking women just for eye candy and stupid matches, bra and panties. If that's the thing that people like, and that's what they want to do with their careers, and that's fine, but that's for them. But I know a lot of women, we were not going for that. And I remember guys promoters that would try to book me for that, and I was just like, no. Like, a lot of this happened in the early parts of my career, and I just didn't like it. And then, there was also, taking the colorism out of it. At the time I was coming up, it was hard to get booked in general if they weren't saying for white girls that they were using on the posters every weekend. It was really hard for you to get booked. And how I overcame that, was I just started working any and everywhere that didn't lower my standards, like didn't go against anything that I just named. And I started building myself a reputation of being a worker of like distinguished character, and like, oh, she's a really good worker. I've seen her here, I've seen her there. I was going up and down the East Coast, Midwest. I was trying to get out to the West, West Coast, stuff like that. I was really going far. I went to Canada. I did it all like to try to get booked, and it was crazy because even to this day, I will still talk about my own home promotion when I was living in Virginia. Wouldn't book me because he said he would never book females, and it was because both females that were at his thing were black, and he said he would never book females. And I still to this day, I've never wrestled in my hometown. I never will plan to wrestle in my hometown because I would never work for that promoter. But now he's booking women because now it's the thing to do, because he said he hated women's wrestling and that he didn't want women's wrestling on his show. He hated it, didn't believe in it, all this good shit. And
he said that out loud?
Yes.
Child, oh my God.
Out loud. He told the fans that, because there was fans that were like that wanted to see me because they were so tired of like me going to North Carolina and like South Carolina and doing all these shows, but I couldn't wrestle in my own hometown of Virginia. I literally would go a state away and like wrestle and have all these fans come see me and then beg for me to be there. And he would just say, I'm not booking no women. And child, I still haven't wrestled there to this day. Do you think I feel bad? No. Now he's booking women's matches because, it's the thing to do now because, women's wrestling's popping. And his show ain't that hard. But, he reached out to me and I said, I would never work for you. I would never work for you. No amount of money on God's green earth can make me work for you. But I literally had to go out there and make a name for myself in places other than my hometown to overcome just that aspect of people just not wanting to book women's wrestling. I went as far as to a different country, and then I kept going to different countries until I came back and people wanted to book me. I was like, oh, you don't want to book me? Cool, I'm gonna show you why you should. I'm gonna go out here and make a name for myself, and then you're gonna want to book me. Then it might not be so pretty for you, but you're great for me, So that's how I came up. That was the time that I came up in. So different nowadays, like girls coming up nowadays, but that's a lot of the things that I had to deal with, and that's a lot of the things I had to fight and overcome with. And I'm not saying I would change my experience for the world, never that, but I'm just saying it was a lot harder than it is nowadays.
Yeah, that's some pretty tough stuff. And it's so funny, we were just talking about stuff like this at Black WrestleFest too, where it's like, number one, you have people who don't want to pay you what you're worth, and then you have people who will stereotype you into a specific character. And it makes you, and it kind of makes you feel like, well, dang, like, why can't I just be myself or this version of blackness? Because blackness is not a monolith, And so it's just like, for people to have like this one single-minded way of booking black women, it's something that I have heard about multiple times on my podcast, and it's something that I've heard in conversations, and it's something that really does need to stop, because we're more than just, happy black people. As much as I love all of my black wrestlers, like, do what works for you, but at the same time, we're so much more than just happy black people who dance and who possibly, speak in preacher voices, and and we're more than angry. It's like, we're more than just so many different things. Like, we're more than our attitudes. It's like, there's so much more to us than just these stereotypes that other people created and put on us when really they were just projecting. But that's a whole nother story. It's
Yes, girl.
just it's sad that, you know, you had to go through that. But I love that your work ethic, you know, inspired you to further show why you deserve more. And I admire the fact that you found other places to work even when the main places where you wanted to work wouldn't book you. Like, that is a work ethic that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people probably would have given up, you know, after, you know, a certain point, but you didn't. It's like you looked out and sought out a solution to your problem, and you showed them why. And for that promotion and that promotion for that guy who didn't book women's wrestling and how he reached out to you, it's amazing how the turntables, let's leave it at that. It's amazing how the turntables.
Girl, begging. He was begging. And I was like, no.
Yeah, but I'm glad you overcame that. So how would you say the wrestling independent scene treats you now, and basically how it's evolved since you started?
Now I think it's pretty cool now. Like, I mean, I still have like moments where, like, I don't know, like, you can attest to this, that I'm just a nice human being. Like, I'm just a nice human being. And then, like, sometimes in my brain, I forget, like, in the midst of all this of me being a nice human being, that I am a professional wrestler, and people do know that, like, I'm a professional wrestler. So, like, sometimes when people are just like, they're like, you're a Sahara Se7en, and I'm like, no, wait a minute, you know me? Like, that's crazy. Like, you know, like, and it's not me, like, being full of myself. It's just, I'm not trying to, like, sit up here and say, oh, I'm just the humblest person in the world. It's just, I'm not like that. I wasn't raised like that. So I genuinely just, out of the kindness of my heart, I'm just a nice individual. I'm not just being nice to you just because I want you to like me or anything like that. I'm just genuinely be nice. So now I feel like, you know, in the indie wrestling community and like in the independents, people are like, oh, I know you, and I'm like, you do? Like, you know me? Like, not even trying to be funny. I'm like, you do know me? Oh my God, wow. Like, you know, I feel like people, you know, definitely know me like now, but I wouldn't say they know Sahara Se7en. They don't really get to know too much of me because, like, I try to, like, be nice to everyone, but, like, not a lot of people know me. A lot of girls back in the day, some of them that don't wrestle anymore, they knew me. Like, we did road trips, they knew me. You know, we shared rooms, they knew me. But now I feel like more so people, you know me. And like you said, some of them look up to me, and, like, some I still don't get why. Like, it's not a I haven't done anything thing, but it's more so a I can't believe you guys, like, look up to me kind of thing. And I feel like I get treated with respect now, like, more than I used to back in the day, because those old dinosaur prehistoric ways back in the day used to be how people treated people. And now that people have made that law and sat it down and, like, really enforced boundaries, because for the longest time enforcing boundaries wasn't cool as a female professional wrestler, but I did it. But now that there's boundaries, people respect you more, and it makes it a better environment for people to be around, better locker room for people to be involved in, and I love it. And, you know, I'm kind of to myself anyways, so I really don't have problems within the independent wrestling community. So I've always been treated with respect, and I've always been, you know, very welcomed in locker rooms that I've been in. So I think that the direction that it's going in is great. Like, the fact that it's opening up more, and there's a lot more, you know, protection centered around the women, because back then there was no protection for the women. You had to look out for yourself, and even the girls, your girls want your girls, because sometimes females would just trade up on you for a spot. And so now it's kind of like a collective thing where people are starting to be more protective of women, especially women in wrestling. So I love that going forward.
Yeah, all of that is great, and I can identify with that, because you said that you're such a nice person, and, you know, and it's kind of hard for you to really get used to the fact that people look up to you and stuff like that. Like, that's me to a certain degree as well, because it's just like sometimes I still feel like that fan. Like I still feel like a fan every day. And the fact that I even get to do this or any of the other stuff I do is just like, are you sure? Really? For real? Like, I still feel like, deep down inside, I'm gonna always still be that fan. And sometimes you just have to know when to kind of like turn the fan off and turn the professional on. But, I feel that same way as well, because you're just kind of like, what? Like, you know me or you pay attention to what I do? Like, seriously? Like, what is that? But it's a great feeling, though, to know that, people are paying attention and actually are watching and seeing the work that you do and finding it substantial. And I'm glad that there is more of a space for women to be protected, because there are so many stories for years of women not being protected the way that they should have been. And I'm so glad that it has evolved, but I wish it had evolved back then for them and just for everyone. But Jesus, like, I'm glad I'm being a part of it now, because I just don't imagine me as a woman being a part of it then, because of how hard it was for so many women. And then let's not even get into like women like us too. Like, oh my God.
Child, there were certain places in certain states you wouldn't go as a colored woman wrestler.
Yeah.
I got called a stand nigger one time.
No.
Yes.
That's so ugly. I'm so sorry.
Short story. I was wrestling in Tennessee at this company in Tennessee, and I was wrestling this skinny white girl, brunette, and she was really nice. It had nothing to do with her, so his story is not her fault or anything like that. And it wasn't the company's fault either, because the company wasn't like that either. They employed, black people. In fact, I think their champion was a black man. Mm-hmm. So it's not in any way this company's fault either. But the towns that they ran in Tennessee at that time, it was still sketchy, because of the racial tension. And I went out there and I hadn't even wrestled yet. Only thing that happened was they played my music. I walked down the aisle to get into the ring. I got in the ring. Our match was in a steel cage. And I got in the ring and they announced where I was from. And they said from Cairo, Egypt. And this big white lady stands up as like they stop playing music. It gets quiet. We get ready. The ref is checking us. He's about to ring the bell. She's like, go back to where you came from, you fucking sand nigger.
Oh my God.
She yelled that at me. And I literally looked at the ref, looked at the girl, and she just looked at me like her eyes were so sad. And I looked at the ref again. I got off the ring. I flew the cage door open, and I was like, would you like to say that to I went up to her and I said, would you like to say that to my fucking face? And she got real quiet. And the thing was, she was there at a child's birthday party.
Oh.
And she was screaming out these things. I got a little interruption, but you could tell that some of the people in the crowd agreed with her. And some of the people in the crowd were just disgusted by what she said. And as I'm going at it, I'm yelling at this lady. The promoter empties out the locker room, and he's trying to pull me back. He gets the security to escort him out, and he's like, we do not, condone this, and blah 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 blah. He gets on my phone. We do not condone this behavior. He's like, if anybody else has anything like this to say, you can leave now. They escorted her out. And she was threatening to fight me in the parking lot, and then the promoter had to make sure people walked through the parking lot. Even though I think I would have been fine, because she won't about to do nothing. But just to experience that and have that happen to me was just enough for me. So yeah, going to places like Tennessee was just not okay back in the day, and you shouldn't have did it alone as a colored woman.
Yeah, that's rough. That's really rough, and I hate that you had that experience. But it's just like I say, like, I feel sorry for people who feel that way and feel like they can say stuff like that out loud, and then not only just say it out loud, but then also say it in their minds too, because it's just like, ma'am, sir, like, it's ugly. It's just so ugly. The idea that you feel like you have to tear someone else down because of what they look like or because they're different from you. And it's just like, and the fact that you would come out in public and say that says a lot about you and not the person that you're seeking to tear down. So I'm really sorry you had that experience. And you need to know, and you're going to hear it from me, you are awesome and you are an Egyptian goddess, and bump whoever doesn't understand that. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Because I know that was a lot. That probably was a lot for you to tell that, to even tell that story. So I just want to, reiterate how I feel about you on my platform. Like, you are amazing. You're talented. You're smart. You're beautiful. Like, you're cultured. You're all of these amazing things. So I just wanted to reiterate that before we continue to go on with, the interview, and just say that that's how I feel about you. And those other things are just small. So let's forget about those and just
thank you. I appreciate
put that in the bag of forgetfulness, like trash. Okay. So how did the pandemic affect your career?
Ooh. Oh my God. Okay. So the pandemic really did me in, because the pandemic kind of slowed down a lot of things that were happening for me. But the pandemic really, I hate to say this, the pandemic really put like a depression cloud on me. I gained a lot of weight over the depression of not being able to wrestle and not being out there. And then I gained a lot of weight because I wasn't happy with myself, and I was sitting in the house, with someone. I was in a relationship that I shouldn't have been in a relationship with. So it was just a lot. It was a lot going on. And so the pandemic really took a toll on me, because when I came out of it, girl, I was heavier. I hadn't trained a lot. I didn't keep myself mentally in the spaces that I was supposed to be. I kind of lost sight and focus. So it did me in, honey, until about the end of 2020, early 2021, really did me in, because I think at the beginning of 2021 I started noticing something was wrong. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, this isn't how I want to present myself to the world. I need to get it back into high gear. And then I did, I was with Paris is Bumping, the first one happened. And when Paris is Bumping, the first one happened, I was like, oh my God, I have not been in the ring for so long. I need to get it together. And I started training to get ready for Paris is Bumping. And I started thinking to myself, this is not me. This is not how I present myself as an athlete. I need to get back on my high horse and work at it. Paris is Bumping came. I did that, and it was so well received by people everywhere in the internet wrestling community. And I gained a lot of new fans from it, and it was just an experience that let me know that I'm still there. The athlete's still there, and the talent is still there. I just need to work my butt off to get my mental and my physical to match. So the pandemic really did a number on me, but at the same time, it gave me my tunnel vision back. Mm-hmm. So I want to say that's pretty much what I gained from the pandemic. The pandemic really hit me with a combo. Hit me with a low jab at first, and then it hit me with a headshot that was like, wake up. So. Yeah,
I feel like that's kind of, that's really accurate as to how I would treat a lot of people. That pandemic really, I don't want to say really did, because it is still here. It's just wasn't as, it's just not as prevalent. in the sense that it hasn't really shut down the whole world and sort of put everything in a standstill to make to make a lot of people, change their lifestyles and just turn everything upside down the way that it did. But it made a lot of people change a lot of things about themselves and make them, sort of self-reflect and realize what they actually want to do or need to do, to improve their lives. And it seems like you really had a very radical experience with that. And I'm glad that, you came out on the other side with it. Like, as, most of us did. And some people weren't exactly as lucky to do, but at least, we came out on the other side of it and not unscathed, but then we still learned from everything that we learned from with that. So, and I'm glad you got your tunnel vision back, because, that's important. So what would you say are some of your hobbies outside of wrestling?
Some of my hobbies outside of wrestling include, I'm a foodie, so I like to cook and eat food and taste food, try things. I love, obviously, playing with my dog. His name is Hades. He's currently sleeping on my lap. I don't know if you can see.
Hey, Hades.
So being a dog mom, so doing things with my dog. I love music. I love dancing. So I make TikToks. I don't know if people seen that, but I do TikToks. I do makeup. I'm pretty much like a girl where I love sports. I play soccer still. Anime. I love anime. I'm big into that. What else?
Which ones?
My favorite anime of all time is Inuyasha, because I love Inuyasha and Shishomaru. Those are my husbands. I watch Demon Slayer, Hunter x Hunter. What else? Black Butler, Vampire Knights, Castlevania, Arcane. I play League of Legends. So let's see, what else? Dragon Ball Z, of course. There's a lot that I can name. Death Note, Parasite, Sailor Moon. I'm so old. I'm just over here giving away.
You're not old. Stop it.
I watch. What else? There's so many that I watch. Did I say Hunter x Hunter already?
You did.
I'm missing one. Persona 5. Beastars. What's the other one? There's a lot of ones that I'm watching right now. So, One Piece. Dang it! I was like, how did I forget the one that I'm really into? One Piece. Yes, One Piece. Those are my animes I love watching.
Okay.
I'm really into that. So that's my hobby, and obviously Harry Potter at all times.
Oh, what's your house?
I'm a Slytherin.
I'm
a Slytherin. Yes, honey.
So
I'm smart. I'm witty.
Could we even be friends? Because I'm Gryffindor.
We can be friends. First of all, we can be friends because I'm not about to spoil it for everybody. But we can be friends because there's some Slytherins in history that were friends with Gryffindors. Snape.
Right.
AKA my dad, Professor Snape. That were great in history, and they were friends with Gryffindors. I.e. Sirius Black. Who else? There was a lot of great Gryffindors and Slytherins that were friends. Now I don't know if I can get along with Hufflepuffs, because I've gotten along with Hufflepuffs in real life, but I don't know if we could be the best of friends because they're kind of scary.
Oh wow!
They act a little how come they always missing in the movies? They always scary. Why they hiding?
I think I've maybe only met one Hufflepuff, just one, and I went to college with him. But really, that's the only Hufflepuff I've ever known. My boyfriend's a Ravenclaw.
But they be ready. They be ready for the fight. But they be coming up with clever ways to work around the situation. But like I said, I ain't never met a Hufflepuff that ain't scared.
Okay. Well, maybe I should be on the lookout for that. So, okay. Well, you're Slytherin. I'm a Gryffindor, and my boyfriend's a Hufflepuff. Not a Hufflepuff. My boyfriend's a Ravenclaw. Like, that's just really, that's almost like the whole gamut right there. I love it. I love being a Gryffindor club. I really feel like we have the best colors and clothes.
Oh no, Slytherin's got that best.
Our clothes are fire. Red and
Our
yellow.
clothes are fire.
Y'all clothes are fire though. I'm not gonna
That
pretend.
green, that black, and that silver. Oh
It's
my
cute.
God, and you throw some little gold accessories on, you be popping.
It's cute, but you know, Gryffindor supremacy.
Oh Lord, y'all get Harry Potter and y'all think, oh my God, y'all just win everything. Wow, I'm over it.
But we're courageous and we have determination and bravery. So I mean, yes.
Y'all always in the mix of something. How about did they add that? No, see,
Hey, but we're in the mix because we get stuff done though. We get it done.
Y'all nosy.
You know, I'll let you have that. We are nosy. It's okay. But it's okay though. So, what was the inspiration behind your character in wrestling, and what is the difference between her, Sahara 7, and the real you?
So the difference between Sahara and me are Sahara is a nut job. I don't know if y'all ever seen her. First, she's a nut job. She's a head case. Especially when things don't go her way. She's a head case. Me on the other hand, I'm more so like I'm chill. I'm laid back, relaxed. I easy breezy. Like the wind could blow, and I'd be like, oh wow, there's a cloud in the sky. You know, I'm just like I'm nonchalant half the time, and I'm very nice. Sahara is like what she wants to be, and like I said, she's a head case, and sometimes she can be a little bit of a spoiled brat, but that's what queens do. Also, she is a demon, straight from the afterlife. If you haven't seen, she has glowing red eyes. I don't know if y'all ever looked into them, but they're soul snatchers. She is not to be fucked with and played with. That's where we are similar, because we both don't like to be fucked and played with. But the idea behind my character came about because my family is actually African and North African, you know, Egyptian descent, and i.e., I don't know if you guys can see it in the background, but you know, my grandma's spiritual presence, and then we got Anubis over here watching over me at all times. It's very much, I think we talked about this, but it's very much a thing in my family to, you know, back in the day they worship Egyptian gods and goddesses. And I was telling you that, you know, Egyptians also only worship gods and goddesses specifically tailored to what they were going through. Like everybody did the big ones, like Ra, Set, you know, all those good ones. But you can have, like, your family can have an affinity to, like, you know, gods of things like fertility and peace and harvest if you were farmers and things like that. So my family is very much so, I try to explain this in the best way possible. My family is more so about that action versus than your word. And we always judge you by the contents of your heart, but not by your head, like, or, you know, what people say about you. And Anubis is always pictured with scales and a heart and a feather on one side, because they do believe that he's the usher to the afterlife. And if your heart was heavy and it weighed more than a feather, then you essentially go to limbo or hell, you know, versus if your heart was as light as a feather, equal to or lighter than a feather, you were a good person and you got to see the promised afterlife. So my family has an affinity to Anubis, which is like, I believe it's like fair judgment, and, you know, pretty much like I go off people's actions versus their words. And that also could be a double-edged sword, because Anubis is the god of death and chaos and destruction. And that is where the flip side of Sahara comes in, you know, the vamp queen Hadi, like, you know, she's a soul snatcher. She's snatching souls, you know, and sucking the lives out of people and leaving a trail of, you know, blood, chaos, destruction, and fire, because that's just what she wants to do. Queen of the Damned is my favorite movie. You know, rest in peace, Aaliyah. But Sahara was very much based off of Queen Akasha. Because that is my favorite movie. She was the dopest character, and because she was an Egyptian black woman, she was a queen who didn't need a king to rule, which is very important. For all my women out there, you don't need a king to rule. You can rule on your own. You can be the queen of your queendom, and you can rule on your own. But just seeing that at a young age let me know, like, hey, like, cool, she's representing my heritage too. She's a woman, a black woman in a position of power, and she doesn't need a man to be in that position of power. And 3, like, this lady is literally unstoppable. It takes so many people to take her down, and that's how I feel like I wanted my character to be portrayed. And my actual name, Sahara, was a name given to me by my grandmother, named after the Sahara Desert, which is also located in Africa. And so it has a lot to go back to, you know, giving back power to Mother Africa, and giving back power to being a black woman, and just giving back power to, you know, the motherland and our heritage, and never forgetting where we came from. So that's how my character came about.
That's really beautiful and deep inspiration. I like that a lot. I love it. That is so cool, and I'm really glad that you got to use like your actual, you know, heritage as a component of it. Like, that's just really cool. I hope that one day I can figure out what my actual heritage is. One day, so I can figure out all the secrets behind all the things and stuff like that. Because I just feel like it would probably be so much between my mom's family and my dad's family. It's probably so thick that I probably don't even know it yet, but I am planning on finding out. But at least you know, and you were taught, and you were able to combine all of that with this character that you've built in wrestling. That's just so unique. Like, that's unlike anything I've ever seen. Like, no, I don't think anybody's really ever done that before, and I feel like that deserves to be lauded and seen somewhere. Like, that deserves to be seen somewhere. Like, I can imagine you on television, like, dressed like kind of like Queen Akasha, but not really, like just something like times 10, like Akasha like 2.0, and then that would be just a unique thing for people to see. Like, I feel like that's something that needs to be seen, and something that needs to be put out there. Like, that's a lot of thought, and that's a lot of creativity there. I like that. That's cool.
I'm hoping that I get to the stage to present it and like have it be seen, and like give it that moment of reference that, you know, it's deserving of.
Yeah, and since you have, you know, been on AEW, you've been on AEW, and you've been on Dark, and you've also been on Dark Elevation. So if the opportunity were to present itself, would you sign with a major mainstream promotion?
I would, but for my reasons would be like, of course, like I said, to get the character seen and, you know, get it out there, but more so because, like I said, I kind of want to emulate my grandma, and like, I want to be like her, and I want to be the person that takes care of my family, and like for generations to come, at least give them some kind of generational wealth, break the generational curses, and giving them generational wealth, at least donating to it, or like, you know, giving profit to it. So yes, I really would sign to a major company. I'd be lying if I said no.
Because ultimately that's what a lot of people do work for. So I'm glad, you know, that I would love it if you did get signed to someone, so I could scream, I know you. So I could be like, you'll be on TV, and I'd be like, I know her! Yes! And then I know her! Yes, and then that'll just be it. And then I'll just scream, and everybody be like, oh, for real? And I'll be like, I know her. And
yeah, go back and watch my podcast.
Yes, go back and watch the podcast. Go back and watch when I commentated for her. Like, I did, and here she is. And I don't have any doubts. Like, I don't have any doubts in you at all. I feel like you'll make it. So, how do you feel about the state of wrestling, and what's good about it, and what could be better?
I think the state of wrestling now, it's got room to grow. I mean, right now it's going in a good direction. Like I said earlier, I like the protection now more of women in wrestling. It has a long way to go with the equality thing. It has a long way to go with not just equality for women, but people of color. I do like that we're moving forward, but it's still got room to grow. And I just would like to see more effort put in for the growth, like more TV time for the women in certain companies, and more serious storylines, and not just giving up halfway through something. Like, if you start something, finish it strong. Don't just slack off because you feel like it's something worth slacking off. And just put faith in those talents that don't get the same treatment as Joe Schmo over here. Put faith in those people, because you never know what those people are capable of. Just because they're not your indie darlings and your indie top 5 and your favorite this and your favorite that, doesn't mean that they're not worth the chance to expand and grow. And don't give up on them halfway through that chance.
Right.
So, that's kind of my sight, my focus now going into the new year's coming up, going forward in wrestling. That's what I want to see.
I agree with all of that. Like, all of that is really valid. I think my earring just fell off. Oh wow. But yeah, I agree with all of that. And yeah. So who has been your favorite opponent?
Ooh, I would have to say either Promise Braxton, because I loved working with her. It was so easy working with her when we did our Austin 316 day. So easy working with her. And Jared Evans, as much as my bestie slash biggest hater.
Mm-hmm.
Working with him and working with her, those two matches by far have been my favorites. Some of my favorites.
Okay. See, Promise Braxton, she was my first ever female guest on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast.
What?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was. And she was a really good guest to have. I gotta have her back on now that I'm using video. Because that was when I was just doing audio. So I gotta get her back, because she's done so much since then. And I'm just happy.
She's growing into greatness, and I love it. She has fully came into her own. I love it.
Yeah, shout out to Reality of Wrestling.
Yes, shout out to Booker and the Rowe family. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because they really did a good work with her, and so many others too. So who would you say is your dream opponent that you haven't faced yet?
Ooh, that I haven't faced yet. I'll probably never get to face her unless she comes out of retirement, but Jackie, I would love to wrestle her. She's retired, but I would love to wrestle her. And Mickey, I'd love to wrestle Mickey anytime, any day.
Mm-hmm.
The original girl from VA, the bad girl from VA is Mickey James.
That could still happen.
That could still happen, very much so. It could very much still happen. And as far as guys, I'm gonna keep saying this until it happens. I want to wrestle Darius Carter.
Ooh.
I want to wrestle Darius Carter because I want to get nasty evil with Darius Carter. I think me and him could really have a really good match if they just let us go and we just both just go out there and do the most unthinkable things we could do to each other. We would have the best match ever.
The fact that your dream opponent is also a guy, I love it. Equal opportunity hands.
Girl, I always say all the time, equal opportunity employer. I do any and everyone. These hands are ready to eat for everyone.
Right. But those are good dream opponents to have, though. But definitely Mickey could totally happen. She's still out here.
Oh, trust me. She's still out here and she knows and she's aware.
Mm-hmm. and I'm gonna post this too so she can see it. So
like, Nikki, I was like, I just want to have a BA like Richmond, because we're, you know, she's from Richmond. I went to school in Richmond. We
yeah,
have a Richmond girl brawl.
yep. And I'll be like, I know somebody who wants to fight you. So when did you know that? When did you realize that your presence in wrestling really mattered?
I want to say I realized that my presence in wrestling really mattered when I was in Japan, and I really felt like nobody was really paying attention to me, because like at that point in my life I was really having, like I told you, a hard time getting booked in the States. So I went to Japan, and I was just like out there in Japan doing my thing, and then I started noticing like my social media was going up, and I was just posting like normal stuff, like training in Japan, like us going to go like hang out, you know, at the karaoke like spot, hanging out with my senpai. And then all of a sudden, like, people are like, yo, you grinding mad hard, that you did it, that you're one of the very few black girls to go over there and like make something of yourself. And I'm like, and it's like people I've never talked to before, and I'm like, what? And then like, you know, to get listed on the black wrestler, was it black independent wrestlers list, the 500, and to see my name on there, and I was like, I didn't even know it was a thing. Like, I didn't know it was a thing, and I was just like, what? I was like, what? I'm on there, like, you know, I'm like, that's crazy. And then when I come home, people are just like, yo, you're like, we saw your stuff, you're so dope. Like, you know, I was just like, what? Like, I was just still like freaking out. I'm like, y'all know me. And then like, you know, coming back and just like having people wanting to book me, and then like people wanted my opinion on things, and people wanted to know, you know, what it was like being a black girl in Japan. And that's when it all registered. When all that kind of happened, I was like, oh wow, I might actually did something. You know, like I might actually did something. And that's kind of when it hit me.
Yeah. It kind of hits you, you know, that way. And because it's like when you're in the midst of it, you don't be paying attention. You just be working because you know you love what you do. But you don't really be thinking anybody's paying attention. And when somebody tells you that they are, you're just like, huh? Me? There's so many other people you can be paying attention to. Like, why are you paying attention to me? Well, because you're worth it. So, yeah. I love that for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I have like maybe actually one more question and a bonus question.
Okay.
So, what does the future hold for you?
I have no idea. Like, I'm so open to any and everything. I definitely would like to get out and like work more, like you said, on people's TV screens, invading their homes, and get to show more of what people in the indies already see, like when they come to see me live and in person. I also would like to, well, I know this is for sure, I'm coming out with my own cosmetics line, because I did say I like to do makeup, so I'm a businesswoman. I'm coming out with my own cosmetic line, and I also do like candles, because I'm a candle freak too. And so I've been working really hard on that. I got my LLC on that, so I will be putting out Sultry 7 Cosmetic Co. And I also am just trying to work on really hard, like getting into being, sorry, it's my dog in the background.
It's okay.
Being fully immersed in, you know, Sahara 7 as a brand, fully immersed in myself and just expanding myself and going out of the box and doing things that I wouldn't have done back in 2014. Definitely want to travel more. I'm trying to plan a trip back to Japan, because God knows I love that country so much. And I've been in talks with people to go over to Egypt to wrestle in front of my own people.
Oh, come
yeah,
on.
that's always been my biggest goal in my career, is to eventually make it to where I can go back to Egypt and wrestle in front of my own people. So hopefully, 'cause during the pandemic, that's really that plan kind of got shut down. So hopefully now going into the new year of 2023, I can go ahead and check that off my list.
That's good stuff right there. Even going to Egypt and wrestling, oh my gosh. I hope that happens, because that would just be the greatest. Oh my gosh, that would be so great.
I think that right there would be like the peak of the mountaintop for me.
I get that. Well, my bonus question for you is, how did it feel for you as a Black female wrestler to be able to participate in Black WrestleFest this past weekend in Brooklyn?
It was so much fun. I had way too much fun. I met a lot of people that I didn't know, like, in real life. I kind of like saw them on Twitter, so I got to meet them in real life. I got to just, hang out. It felt like a big family cookout, honestly. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Or a big family reunion. So I feel like I got to like hang out with people who were kind of like family to me, like, because we are all, we're all Black, and like I said, centered around the wrestling community. It felt good to like be able to talk to other people about, what you like, what you dislike, and what you're excited about. So I felt very honored to be able to participate in the first ever, Black WrestleFest. I felt like it was such an honor, and I feel like it was mad love shown, and like it just felt good. It just felt good, especially for it being on Juneteenth. It felt good.
Yeah, I feel all of that. It felt really good for me in that way too. Except mine didn't necessarily feel like a family reunion. It felt like a family introduction. Like, this is really us. Like, this is real. And it was just like, holy cow, this is it.
You're like, there they are in the flesh. Yes.
Yeah, that's
real.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. It was, in the sense, like a family reunion type feel, but for me, it was just like an introduction into a real, like, another real wrestling family that I just didn't think was that serious until I got there and realized it was that serious. So, there was just so much love shown and so much support and everything, and I feel like I'm still kind of on a high from it, and I'm trying to come down a little bit, but maybe I feel like I shouldn't, but I don't know.
Girl, let that excitement push you forward into doing something else.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. It's just I'm back at home now, and I'm just trying to, still find my rhythm back again. But
that's how it is when you have to transform back into your normal life. But
yeah,
use that good energy and like just use it and let it push you into something. I don't know, because it pushed me into. I launched my t-shirts. Like I did a lot because I was just so hyped and I was so happy. I was like, I'm gonna let this push me forward to do something great.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna let it do for me too. Well, thank you, Sahara Se7en, for coming on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. Now, if you don't mind just telling everybody where they can find you and follow you, then you can do that right now.
So if you're on Twitter, you can find me at Sahara_007, and then Instagram, it is Sahara Se7en. Facebook is Sahara Se7en. TikTok, because I'm on TikTok and I kind of make some funny TikToks. I'm Sahara Se7en on TikTok, and that's about it. I was gonna say I have new shirts that just dropped, so they're featured on all my social platforms. So go get you one now.
All right, so I believe since I've had a week to process everything and breathe everything in, leave and come back and whatnot, I believe now is the perfect time for me to talk about my time in New York. of course, my journey to New York was purposeful because I was going to New York for Black Wrestle Fest, which was the first of its kind, being presented by Pretty Heels. And shout out to Danny and Ebony for putting that together, because it was such a beautiful event and it was an amazing concept that I saw months ago. It was a little bit after I finished Comic-Con in February. I saw rumblings and postings about Black WrestleFest, and I had never really heard of it before. And I was sort of on the lookout, down here in Alabama to become like a vendor for Juneteenth, because that's like a really happening time, for Black businesses and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll get some attention, from Black creatives and Black business owners about the podcast and get that out there, in the state, right? So I couldn't find anything, and I think it was because I was looking incredibly early. Like, Juneteenth is, of course, in June, and I started looking for stuff, I believe, around March or April. And when it comes to, like, living in Birmingham, it's like, I know that Juneteenth is a big deal, but I couldn't find anything, and I was just like, what am I going to do? Because I like to be prepared for stuff. So I went ahead, signed up for Alabama Comic-Con, and that went how it went, and y'all know about that. And I was happy about that, but then when I saw more postings and more information about Black WrestleFest, it started to have different subjects and different things that I wanted to participate in terms of Black wrestling, and things I wanted to talk about, like positivity in wrestling and wrestling in fashion and being a woman in the wrestling business and so many things like that. So I was like, you know what? I think it's time to take the leap and go to New York. And I had never really been to New York before, so I was and nobody around me had ever really been to New York before either. So I really didn't have anything to go off of in terms of finding, tips on how to move about in New York or the different boroughs or whatever. But of course I did have Janelle from HR of the Jobber Tears podcast, and everyone else, reaching out and helping me, get through things and figure out stuff for travel and everything. And shout out to my boyfriend, because we both paid for the plane ticket. We both went half on the plane ticket. And I'm appreciative to him because, a lot of this would not be happening if it was for him. But I think I'll say that later for a later time. But thank you. So we bought the plane ticket. I found an Airbnb that was affordable in Brooklyn. And, once the week got here, I was just like, man, like, I'm going to New York. This is real. So I go to the airport this past Thursday. Not this past Thursday that just passed, but last Thursday. I go to the airport, pack all my things, get everything together, leave, go to the airport, and my flight was delayed about maybe 2 hours because there was a thunderstorm in Charlotte, because I was leaving Birmingham, going to Charlotte, and then I was supposed to land in LaGuardia Airport. But it got delayed, and then even after it got delayed, my other flight, my connecting flight from Charlotte to New York, got canceled, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I didn't know exactly how to solve the issue, but something inside of me said to talk to Janelle. And so Janelle was telling me, hey, tell me when you land in New York and stuff like that. So I did. I was telling her everything that was happening. And she was the one who told me, hey, you need to go up to the desk and ask them if they could put you on another connecting flight to another airport that's not LaGuardia, like JFK or the one in Newark, New Jersey. So I was like, okay. And I tried to call customer service. That didn't work out. So I got to the desk and they figured it out and they put me on the flight to Newark. And I'm really grateful for that attendant who did it. I believe her name was Ashanti. I doubt very seriously if she will ever listen to this podcast ever. But if she ever does, I just want to say thank you for your help, because you literally helped me out that day. You have no idea how much you helped me out that day. So, I waited for the flight, and then I got on the flight to Charlotte, and then I finally left Charlotte and then flew to New Jersey. And it was about maybe close to 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. when I got to New Jersey. And I got help. I was able to I was able to have a lift gifted to me by Janelle again. She's the MVP of my whole arrival to New York. She gifted me a lift to ride from Newark to Brooklyn, and the Lyft driver was really cool. Like, he, drove and everything, and I asked a lot of questions, which was really funny because for somebody who was up at like 3 o'clock in the morning in a whole nother state, it was just really funny how many questions I had. We drove over bridges, and I learned about tolls and everything, because apparently if you live in New York, you got to pay tolls for bridges, and I'm just like, what? But yeah, that was interesting. And when we finally made it to New York, and we drove through, I believe, a part of Staten Island, and then we finally got to Manhattan, and I saw the skyline and everything was lit up. And it was so beautiful. Like, I could see the One World Trade Center. I could see the Statue of Liberty from afar. Like, the whole thing, like the Empire State Building. Like, it was just the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. I was just like, excuse me. I told the driver I felt like I was meeting a celebrity for the first time, except the celebrity is like a city, because y'all, I've been watching movies with New York in it my whole life, and I think the first one was either Oliver and Company or Annie. It was one of those two, as far back as I can remember. And it's just so amazing when you finally get to visit a city that you've seen, your whole life and exists, but you never really get the chance to go, and now you have the chance and it's right there in front of your face. Like, it's crazy. So I finally get to my Airbnb, which was nice and clean and cool or whatever, but I was scared because I think my anxiety was an all-time high at first, because there was someone sitting outside at night, and he was sleeping. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I was freaking out. But I went inside, finally got inside my apartment, got to my room, threw on my pajamas, and just went to sleep. So I woke up the next day, I believe it was around maybe 11 or 12 o'clock, and I called everyone, told them I got in okay, and I just put on my tennis shoes, I washed up and everything, put on my tennis shoes and my shorts and my Bianca Belair Sasha Banks match t-shirt, and just went out and just started walking around Brooklyn. And I was just immediately overwhelmed by the amount of people that were just walking around. Like, there were schools around, so there were kids that were still in school. I believe they get out next week, but there were kids in line going to go play. There were kids in a band outside playing on the sidewalk and everything. Like, it was just the most craziest experience ever, and it was just people everywhere. Like, it felt like you were walking around and seeing the whole world. It was like black people, like white people, Hispanic people, like Puerto Rican people, Dominican people, everyone, like Middle Eastern people, Amish people, everyone was there. It was just insane. You saw school buses riding around town with Hebrew words written on them in different colors. Like, it was just the most craziest thing ever. You saw people sitting on their stoops outside. And I just remember being so excited seeing all of the apartments and everything that I'd seen in Spike Lee movies. Like, seeing those, like, that was just the coolest thing ever. Like, I made a video on my social media where I was looking for Nola Darling from the movie She's Gotta Have It in the series too, and I couldn't find her. I was joking saying I was trying to find her but couldn't, but it's okay. It was just amazing, and I just walked around and I saw playgrounds and basketball fields and, well, not basketball fields, basketball courts. And I even made it up to Marcy Avenue and the Marcy Projects where Jay-Z was from. Like, that was just the coolest thing ever. And then there were all kinds of graffiti art and everything, on walls, on buildings and stuff, and so many restaurants. And I actually went inside like maybe 2 bodegas. I was so excited because I be hearing stuff about bodegas all the time. And I actually went inside of a bodega and bought some stuff. I bought some fruit and some water. Oh my God, like, it was just the coolest thing ever. And I believe I was walking, and then it was really hot that day, that Friday. So I got really hot and I had to stop and get some water. And then I finally walked all the way back to my Airbnb, and I was so tired. So I took a nap and I just turned on the air conditioner. The air conditioner was blazing. But I was just happy because I was able to walk around and see everything, and my adrenaline was high. And I was just like, oh my God, it's New York. But then my body was like, girl, you need to calm down. You don't even walk this much at home. And then I also ran into a guy. Well, I went to a pizza place called Rocco Pizza. Shout out to you guys. That had really good pepperoni and sausage pizza. And I also had a grape soda. And the guy who was there, Sean, who served me my pizza, said that he was a wrestling fan and that he liked my shirt because they had Sasha on it. And I was like, oh, me too. And he even gave me his phone number after I sat outside the pizza place to eat. And they were playing R&B music and everything. But I thought it was so funny how he was bold enough to walk up to my table and give me his phone number. Like, it's funny. I think I lost it, but either way, I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I called Janelle on the phone and I told her what happened. And she was like, how you out here getting numbers and stuff on your first day? I was like, girl, I don't know. I didn't do nothing. I was just nice to him and asked for some food. But that was it. I told that story backwards, but either way, New York was really cool. Then afterward, me and Janelle met up. She met me at my Airbnb. And when I tell you I was so crunk to meet her, like I really was like, oh my God, like Janelle, Janelle, oh my God, like Janelle, like, okay, it's crazy. I'm sorry. I didn't say her name that many times. But I was so happy to meet her, like, because I've been seeing her, and listening to her stuff and watching her do her thing with Jobber Tears, for like 2 years now. And, we've gotten together and done things before. I was on her show. She's been on my show last year for Black History Month. Like, it was just really good to actually finally meet her face to face. And she gave me, a package, like with a Jobber Slam t-shirt and 2 shot glasses from Jobber Slam because I sponsored their event last year, their first Jobber Slam event. Even though I could not come, I still sponsored it. And she also gave me the Bruno Sammartino shirt that she bought me, that WWE had at a Raw in New York, and they were only selling those t-shirts in New York, and I really wanted one, and she saw that I really wanted one because I made a post about it on Facebook, and she got it for me. I was just like, oh my God, this is so great. And she said she had a surprise for me, and I couldn't believe it. I was just so happy. And so she picked me up and we walked to the subway, and we was walking up the steps, and she was telling me, we're going on the subway, and I was like, oh my God, for real? She was like, yeah. And I was like, wow, because I'd never been on a subway before. So we stopped at inside the station, and I got myself a Metro card, and she taught me how the machine works and everything. I swiped the Metro card, got in there. I'm keeping my Metro card because I feel like I'm going to come back. I'm going back to New York at some point. I don't know when. Maybe August. We'll see. But I got a Metro card, and we got on the subway, and it was cool, and we just talked, and we got to know each other a lot more. And I was just asking her questions about the subway and how she goes about doing this every day, because people really leave their homes, walk from their homes, take the subway to wherever it is they gotta go, and they go to work. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. Because I'm thinking people just take the subway because they want to. Like, people really be doing that, as a necessity. And I'm just like, wow. The same way you would take the bus. Also, their buses are really long too. Like, half of our buses in Birmingham, it's like both of their buses is like half of our bus in Birmingham. It's crazy. But yeah, the subway was cool. It was wobbling at a certain point, but then, Janelle said that was normal. So I was like, okay. And then, once we got out of the subway, we got on another train and everything. We went on the J train. We got out, and then we went up the stairs, and we were at Times Square. And I was like, oh my God, it's Times Square. This is it. And we were walking around and we walked up on like a Broadway street. They had Harry Potter and the Cursed Child across the street from Disney's Aladdin. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is Broadway. Like what? Broadway is in my face. And then I think down the street behind us, there was the Lion King going on. And then up the street further, it was the Phantom of the Opera. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is it. I think they were advertising Wicked, somewhere. But yeah, this is crazy. And you can see all the lights and everything. You're walking and you're walking on the sidewalk. And we went to the gift shop first. And I just bought a lot of things. I bought a keychain for myself, a red cup for myself. I bought mugs for my mom, my dad, and my sister. And I bought something for my boyfriend. He doesn't know what it is yet, so I have to keep it on a hush-hush. But I bought something for my boyfriend, and it was just crazy. And I bought a shirt for myself, too. It said New York in the middle. It had New York City in the middle, and it had the Statue of Liberty in the shape of the Starbucks siren. Because I love Starbucks, if you may or may not have known. And I just bought that shirt, and I was like, this is cute. And in the gift shop, they had all kinds of sculptures of the Empire State Building and taxis, like yellow taxis, and airplanes, and different presidents, including the one that shall not be named. And just so many things, like purses and bags and magnets and everything. And me and Janelle continued to talk while I shopped and everything. Like, it was a lie. It was crazy. So we shopped, got everything situated. And we went to this place called Dallas Barbecue, which is a barbecue place, but they sell other stuff and other food too. And it's really fancy. It's like an upstairs, downstairs type situation. You go upstairs on the escalator to eat. And we met up with Danny, who created Black WrestleFest, and Keith Mack, who is a wrestler, who I believe is from North Carolina. And it was so great to meet them. They were so nice and everything. And we were all just talking and chatting it up or whatever. And we were just eating and, drinking and having a good time and whatnot. And then this dude walked up on us and took a picture for a postcard. But they let me have it because I was the newbie to New York and a tourist. So they let me have it. And it's in my cubicle in my office. So yeah, like we just got to know each other and talked and we drank and it was just fun. And I ate a salad. So that was really good. And then after that, we went to the Madame Tussauds, museum. We didn't go inside, but outside they had it to where you could take a picture of you, and it's like where you could take a picture of yourself with the Rock statue, and that picture is floating around somewhere. I wish they had taken a picture on my phone to where I could have posted it. But yeah, like I was standing next to a sculpture of the Rock, and it looked just like him too, and it was his same height, and I was just like, oh my God, the Rock is tall. The Rock is tall and muscular. Like, that's so crazy. Like, I thought, maybe he would be shorter, but I guess he's tall in real life. So Rock, if you're out there, I took a picture with your sculpture in New York, and you're really tall, and I was really surprised by that. So maybe one day when we meet in real life, I can hug you and you'll be tall and everything will be great. So yeah, that was cool. And then we went walking in the streets, and I kid you not, as we were walking, Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys was playing, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm in New York and they're playing the New York songs. Yay! It was amazing. And then we were walking another way, and then they were playing Pop Smoke, the Dior song. And I was just like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then Keith Mack was saying, yeah, well, this song kind of reminds me of why I really don't listen to like current music or something like that. And I was just like, oh my God, it's so funny to say that about Pop Smoke. And it's just like, I mean, not about Pop Smoke in particular, but just about music in general. But it's so funny though, because that song where he says Christian Dior, she liked the way and all that. It was just really funny to hear that there, and I was actually talking to Janelle about that situation with Pop Smoke and how sad it was and everything. So rest in peace to Pop Smoke, and respect to his family and love to his family and stuff, because that was a hard situation. He was really young. Like, he was about as young as my sister, I think. But rest in peace to him. But as we just kept walking, we kept passing McDonald's. We were passing like Starbucks. We ran up on the Hard Rock Cafe that used to be the WWF New York restaurant, which I really wish it would reopen because I didn't get a chance to go because I was a child when they opened it up. But I feel like now if they open that up or maybe put up the Hall of Fame Museum in New York or somewhere like there, like it would be bananas and it would sell. But either way, we saw that there was a Planet, or at least was a Planet Hollywood, I think. But I think the sign was dark, so I'm not sure if it's closed or not, but I think one of us was reacting very strongly to the fact that Planet Hollywood might not be there anymore. But either way, yeah, like that's a pretty old school restaurant right there. And there's a Hershey's store. Hershey's has a store in New York in Times Square, and their doorknobs are the Hershey's chocolate bar, and when you open it, it's like all of the candies have like merchandise in different sections. I saw a Jolly Rancher pillow. There was like a Kit Kat pajamas and Kit Kat cups and everything. Like everything was lit in there. I mean, lit. I just couldn't believe it. And then they also had a machine where you could pull the lever and you can get some Hershey's Kisses. Oh my God, it was fire. It was just so cool. They also had a Disney store, but I didn't go in there because I was pretty sure if I went in that Disney store, all of my money would have been gone and I still had 2 more days in New York. So y'all ain't finna do that to me. So I didn't go in there. But we finally got to the middle of New York, in the middle of Times Square, and you saw all the billboards and all the lights. And we even passed by where they used to film TRL on MTV. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, it's right there. But yeah, like all the billboards and everything was lit up the way that you like on TV. It's like, it's so huge that it makes you feel small. Like that's literally how the middle of Times Square feels. It's so big that it makes you feel small. And there were people sitting up on like these red steps waiting, you know, on the wait list for like Broadway plays, for tickets and stuff. And we were just taking pictures, and I was just so happy to be there. Like it was just so insane. And then of course they still have the New Year's ball up, because after every New Year's Day night, whatever, they keep the ball up there and they keep the year up there until, of course, it's time to redo it for the next year. And I couldn't believe that. I thought they just took the ball down and then just put it up when it gets closer to Christmas time. But no, that's how they do it. So yeah, like that was my whole experience. And we got off of the subway and we went back to the subway, got off the subway, and she walked me back to my place, and then that was it. So I slept and everything, got ready, got everything situated for Black WrestleFest. And I think maybe, yeah, like Black WrestleFest was amazing. Like I got there really early because of course I had to set up, and right next to me was Women's Wrestling Talk, and I finally got to meet Katrina Blake, who is the host of In Cat We Trust, so please check that out. And she's a co-host of the NXT UK and NXT 2.0 after show with me on Women's Wrestling Talk, and we have been working together for so long, and we finally met each other. It was so lit. Like we hugged each other, and it was just the coolest thing ever. It was like a family reunion. Like oh my god, yes. I met Katrina, and I met so many other people, you know, who were working and working the event and stuff. I met Dr. D, and just so many other people. I got to meet Sir Wilkins. Oh my God, it was so good to see him, even though he was kind of on the run and everything. But he looked so great in his suit and everything. I was like, look at you with your haircut, your suit. I was like, come on, Sir Wilkins, do it. And I met Mr. Black too, and it was just, I can't believe I was meeting him for the first time. You know, we were hugging, and he was busy because, you know, he was busy with a lot of stuff. He was helping Battle Club Pro with things because he's a referee. Like, he's just a man of many talents. Like, shout out to Mr. Black. You be doing everything. Literally everything. And I'm going to get to that later. But it was just really great to see everyone. I got to meet those wrestling girls, Queen PR and Krista B. And oh my God, and all of their crew. I was just so excited to meet them. Like, because we've been seeing each other, you know, online and been trying to hook up for all this time or whatever. And, you know, watching them do their thing really inspires me to do my thing. So meeting all of the people that inspired me, you know, before I started doing this was just the biggest treat ever. And then I got to meet Brian from the wrestling realm and all of his friends. Oh my God, it was just so cool. Like Dwayne, and it was just so cool. And I to meet a lot of different people. Oh my God. Like, it was just a great experience. And then we did our women's wrestling panel, and Kiki from Texas was there. I was so happy to see her and hug her. Her hair is like so soft, and I was just like, oh my God, it's you. And we be supporting each other and everything. And so just to see each other was just really great. And I met Spice Spiegel, who's having who I did an interview with, who's having Black Girl Magic in August in New York too. Like, oh my God, like meeting and interviewing with everybody, like, and working with everybody, like that was just the coolest part of it ever. And just, it was just so cool. Participating in the Black Women in Wrestling panel was amazing as well, and it was very emotional if you were there. Just to be sitting there with Janelle, and who was moderating it, and with Kiki and with MJ Jenkins, who will be on a future episode of the show. Like, that meant the world to me, because these women be doing their thing, and Janelle, you know, came before me, and then it's just, and I'm more than sure Kiki came before me too, I believe, at some point, I believe so. And then MJ was someone I watched do her thing, like, in NXT and with the Mae Young Classic, and continuing to do her thing even now in wrestling. Like, I'm sitting here with all these great people, and it's just, it was so cool to be able to talk to them and talk about my experiences and my struggles and, you know, my challenges, while also talking about my triumphs and all of the above. Like, it was just great. And Brian asked me that one question about finding my purpose in wrestling, and it cracked me in half, and I was crying, and it was a whole thing, but they made me feel safe about it. And Mr. Black was rooting me on over and over again, yelling, talk your ish. And I appreciated that, because I never really do talk my ish a lot. I don't. I just work because I love to do what I do. And I just kind of let the work speak for itself. But hearing him say talk your ish really did make me feel like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Okay. So it was just really funny. So doing that panel really was amazing. Like, it was great. And so after the panel, you know, they were able to do Q&A, and like I said, Brian asked his question. But then Joaquin Morales, who is the owner, I believe, of Battle Club Pro, he's a co-owner because Janelle is also an owner as well, came up with the microphone, and he asked me a question, and I was just like, okay, what is it? And he said, would you like to guest commentate with me for the women's main event? And everybody starts going crazy. And I'm just like, what? Because I was just going to go to Battle Club Pro, you know, and their Welcome to War event that's Sunday, and just, you know, go as an audience member and enjoy it, you know. But he asked me to commentate the Big Swole Jordan Blade match for the Battle Club Pro Icons Championship. And I was like, of course I will. And I ran up to him and I hugged him, and I was like, I can't believe you did it. And everybody was rooting for me and everything. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so great. And it was, you know, everybody was congratulating me and everything. It just felt like so much love, you know, that was just taking place in there and all of that. And then after the panel was over, it felt like there was a whirlwind after that, because everybody, you know, was wanting to talk to me. Everybody was, you know, I was just running all over the place and interviewing people and everything. And then after that point, it was just, you know, a blur. And then after we, you know, left and everything, I got to hang out with Randy and Eric of Backstage Brawl. Shout out to them. And I got to hang out with Randy's fiance, Jennifer, who's like amazing and so beautiful. Like, girl, what? And I got to go to their house, and Eric was a great host. You know, he fed us, and Kiki. Oh, and yeah, and then Kiki was there, and Jeffrey was there. I got to meet Jeffrey Taylor, who's a ring announcer, and he's just a jack of all trades in wrestling too. And he has a really fun Twitter presence. So to be able to meet him was amazing too. I was just like, oh my God, it's Jeffrey! You know, which is really great. So we were eating and talking and stuff like that, and just eating and talking and just enjoying each other's company. And we were driving around, and Eric and Jen were showing me a lot of the different parts of Brooklyn. Like, apparently Brooklyn is a really big borough. So I saw more of it than, you know, just the side that I was on with them. And then we went to the after party at Essence Bar and Restaurant. And shout out to them, because they have really good food. I ate a shrimp pasta and had like a couple of drinks or whatever. And we were just dancing and having a good time. I danced with Jeffrey to my favorite Ja Rule song, which is Living It Up featuring Case. That's a little bit of trivia about me. I love that Ja Rule song. That's my favorite Ja Rule song of all time. I tried to hold it in, but I couldn't hold it in. And I had to dance. So I danced. I danced to Ja Rule in New York. Yes. So it was really great, you know. And after that, you know, I just went home, went back to my Airbnb, got my ride, and went there, and then just practiced a little bit for commentary and went to sleep. And then I woke up and did more of Black WrestleFest stuff and listened to more panels and everything. And also, speaking of panels, I really enjoyed Sir Wilkins' panel about media and wrestling with Brian and Tyrese and... oh my gosh, I'm missing a person. And Carl. Yeah, oh my gosh. That panel was very informative and I learned a lot from them. And I even learned a lot from that conversation they were having about Stone Cold's influence over The Rock's influence in the ring. That was interesting. Sir Wilkins is a star. And that's all I have to say. He's a star. And he deserves all the good things that's coming to him in his wrestling career because he's so enthralling and he has such great charisma. And I can just see him on television someday. Like, he just has it. And I just cannot wait for the world to see it because he just got it going on. He has it going on. And I'm so happy for him because he hosted that panel and he held it down. Okay? So yeah, like everything happened, and then we wrapped up Black WrestleFest relatively early, but I was still able to interview people after that point. I think I was the only one left interviewing people even as we were wrapping stuff up. It was hilarious. But then we had to get ready to for Battle Club Pro's Welcome to War show outside of the venue. And as we were getting ready to pack up and leave, Trish Adora, the Pan-African World Diaspora Champion, walked in, and I kid you not, my brain went blank because I love Trish Adora. I love her, and I've been trying to get her on my show, but, you know, circumstances get in the way. But I just couldn't believe it was her, and I just flipped out, and, you know, it was Kat and her boyfriend, Max, you know, shout out to him, who pushed me, you know, to talk to her. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, like, I love you and stuff. And she said that everything, you know, I was saying to her about my show and stuff, you know, sounded familiar or whatever. So I was just so happy to meet her. And we took a picture together and I posted it. So if you want to check it out on Instagram and Twitter, you can. But yeah, it was just me and Trish Adora. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. And it was also cold that day. It was really weird. Yeah, to be cold in June, what the heck? But yeah, I was just so happy to meet her, and it was just so great. So finally, I had to go downstairs to the locker room, change my clothes because, of course, I was on commentary for that day, and well, for that one match, but or whatever. So I had to get ready, get my hair together, get jewelry situated, and put on my outfit or whatever. And the outfit. There's a story behind the outfit I wore. So if you follow me on my socials, you saw the outfit I wore. The outfit I wore is kind of like a romper, but it was kind of like a suit jacket romper type of deal. And I bought that outfit when I thought that there was a possibility that WWE would call me because I participated in the TikTok interview contest for WrestleMania in Texas. I went to, I ordered that outfit off of Shein, and I bought my shoes from Rainbow. And of course they never called because, you know, they just decided not to go with the contest and just decided to go in another direction, which they did have the right to do. And I was devastated by that at first, but then I got over it and kept the outfit and kept the shoes. And I just brought the outfit and the shoes with me because I guess in my head I was like, you know, you're going to a wrestling event, you just never know. They might need you or call you for something, or they might want you for something. So I just packed it anyway. And it worked out because I was prepared. So I wore that outfit and everybody was losing their minds because usually throughout the whole time I had on, you know, pants or shorts or something. I had on shorts and I had on jeans or whatever. And in this outfit, it shows off a lot of my legs and a lot of my thighs. Like, thick thighs save lives. That's what I got. And and everybody was freaking out and they liked my outfit and it made me feel really good. And then Joaquin told me that I was going to have an entrance because I was the guest commentator. And I was like, a what? An entrance? An entrance? What? Because I've never had an entrance before. Like, I see people do entrances all the time. I've been watching people make entrances my whole life in wrestling. Never have I ever thought that I would, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I haven't imagined what it would be like if I did have an entrance, though. I imagine it quite a lot, but I never thought I'd actually do one. I was so nervous when he told me that. So I was just like, okay, well, all right. And then I met the ring announcer. He was great. And I gave him all my information, and he announced me from Birmingham, Alabama, and he mentioned all my credentials. And once it was time for me to come out there, I was nervous, but I did it anyway. And I sent him my theme song, which is, of course, the podcast theme song. And it worked out. It worked out as best as it could. I was just walking and, I was strutting a little bit, walking a little bit, strutting a little bit, and everybody was screaming for me. And I was just like, oh my God, what is this? And I was trying not to fall because there were pads on the ground to protect the talent. But I was trying really hard not to fall. But I didn't fall. And I was just saying hi to everybody, waving to everybody, blowing kisses and whatnot. And Kiki was yelling for me, Queen PR was yelling for me. Oh my God, Hearts was yelling for me from Talk of Champions. She came. I was just like, oh my God, it's so crazy. I just couldn't believe it. It was a beautiful moment. And being able to call that action in that match for Big Swole, who is someone I greatly admire, for not only being a great wrestler, but also, battling back from Crohn's disease, and also balancing that and being a mother and a wife to Cedric Alexander, and then her also utilizing her platform to stand up for diversity in wrestling at the beginning of this year. Like, I just admire her so much, and I was actually able to say that to her when I was asking her for her information, and she really appreciated it. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so great, and being able to get Jordan Blades, information and talk to her a little bit, that meant the world to me too, finding out, she was in a tag team, and how, she was looking to sort of break out on her own a little bit and stuff. And just seeing how good of a job she did in her match with her ground and pound action and her jiu-jitsu stuff. And then watching just Big Swole in action, in person, and just commentating that, with my commentary team, that was amazing with Joakim. And the other guy's name escapes me right now, and I'm so mad, but just being there just meant the world to me. It just felt so good. It felt like I was just getting a lot of love and a lot of appreciations and lots of pictures and lots of hugs, lots of kisses on the cheek, of course, because people were just happy to meet me and see me. Even with Dirty Heels, they were so sweet. Shout out to Good Brother Bove and Kofi Wheatston. Thank you guys so much for your love and your concern and your hugs and just figuring out, that you guys were tall and all of that. I just love you guys so much, and just all the love that was shown. I appreciated it. And that Sunday was just a whole lot. It was so great, though. That show was amazing. Watching Shane Taylor fight Moff, that was insane. These two big men fighting each other, killing each other. I had never seen Shane Taylor wrestle before, but he is that guy. He really is that guy. I want more for him. He was great. I love that. And then watching the civil war between Jobber South and Prolific, that was cool. And just seeing all these people that Jobber talks about all the time, it was just really cool. It was just really amazing. It was an amazing event that I'm glad I got to participate in as well as witness. And then, of course, Jobber Slam 2 is coming up, and it's going to be the same weekend as Black Girl Magic. And then Mia Yim is supposed to be fighting Big Swole for the Battle Club Pro Icons title. And I'm just like, what? Y'all just going hard for no reason. For no reason. It was just crazy. That announcement was mind-blowing. So, Jesus. I'm gonna have to figure out something with these finances, see if I can come back up there, because I had such a good time and everybody was so welcoming and stuff. So there was that. And then finally on Monday I was able to go home, and it was good to go home because as much as I loved my time in New York is a lot. There's a lot of people, it's a lot of traffic, it's a lot of everything. Whereas Birmingham's a little bit slower, so I got to kind of recharge my batteries, but then I did, have to go to work and start back my normal life and everything. So, yeah, but my time in New York is something that I will really cherish. from the interviews I did with people like Michael Bostic, Janelle's boyfriend, and also host of Welcome to the Raw Zone with Ivy, like them having me on their show, me having him and Ivy on my show, and, you know, networking and stuff like that, and, you know, just figuring stuff out and just listening to other people's journeys in wrestling, even talking to Chris Bornea, who's the director of the Lady Wrestler documentary, where he talks about specifically the history of Black women in wrestling, you know, of the past. And like stuff like that was just really educational, and, you know, it feeds you and it helps you realize that your place in wrestling as a Black woman is important, regardless to any type of negativity that comes your way from people from the outside or people on the inside. So it was such a beautiful time, like, and I'm really glad that Danny is having Black WrestleFest again next year. So it was just a beautiful time that we had, and for it to happen during Juneteenth weekend was just really great too. So we just got to celebrate our freedom in that, and it was just so beautiful. It was really beautiful, and hopefully when I go back to New York, I'll be able to see a whole lot more, because there's still so much I have to see. Like last night, Michael was talking to me on Welcome to the Raw Zone, and he was like, look, you got to see Coney Island, you got to see, you know, so many other things. And I'm just like, I know, like, and the Statue of Liberty, and, you know, just there's just so much I want to see the next time I go to New York. But I do want to go back, so hopefully I'll be able to go back in August, and if not, you know, I'll just try to go back, you know, at some point. But I really loved it. All right, so thank you for joining me on this 99th episode of The Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And I want to thank Sahara Se7en for coming on my show. I'm so grateful that she came to Black WrestleFest, and that I've met her and that even after I've met her, she has been nothing but nice to me. And she's also, you know, a really great wrestler. And I'm just so happy to see where her career goes after this point. So yeah, this is the 99th episode of The Hardy Wrestling Podcast. That means the next one is going to be episode 100. And hopefully, if everything goes right, I have a great episode for you guys that will celebrate the beauty and the everythingness of this wrestling podcast that I've been happy to host and create and curate and all of the above. So, of course, as usual, know that you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. And you can follow The Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. And you can listen to the podcast everywhere you get your podcasts, as Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, I believe you can listen to it there. And you can listen to all the audio episodes and the interviews on my YouTube channel. That's The Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And I have newer content on there from Black WrestleFest, where I did short interviews with lots of people, including 3-count pro champion Zuka King, including Movie Mike, who tried to take over my podcast, but I had to snatch it back, and Spice Spiegel and Keith Mack, and so many other people I got to talk to during that time. So please check that out, and just continue to just support The Hardy Wrestling Podcast. Oh, and yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed, but voting is over for the Alabama Music Awards. So hopefully that award show is next month. So hopefully, you know, the show will have a good running chance for Bama Podcast of the Year. So that's what's going on with that. But thank you to those who did vote. I appreciate you regardless of the outcome. And I'm just really happy with where this show has gone and how far this show has gone, you know, in a matter of 2 years. So with that in mind, please show good vibes and good energy to every woman that you meet, because we are living in a tough time right now. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, show love and light to each other, because we're all going through things that are really rough at times. But, you know, if we just surround each other with love and light, then we can get through those tough times. Also, send up some good prayers and good energy towards my mom, because she really needs it. She really needs it. So with that in mind, thank you for listening to the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl, Stephanie Hardy. And until next time, bye, y'all.